This episode of the Podular Modcast is brought to you by Recovery Effects and Devices. Quality handmade effects and modules paying homage to classic synth and effects designs while innovating for today's studios and musicians. Hello, my name is Tim Held. Welcome to the Podular Modcast, where we
feast on the frequencies of modular synthesis.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Podular Modcast. Today's guest is Chris Davis. He performs under the name Chris Davis and PLL, and he is in a band called Brainfruit. Super awesome dude. We had a great talk with him. We did it in his studio, and it was the second episode we did, the first with Ian, and the audio is a little rough. I'm gonna just warn you right now. I did my best to try to make it sound good, and it was on my older computer, and I got a new computer because the older one was starting to basically die, is the best way to put it, and I lost the last like 10 minutes of track 1. So towards the end, you're gonna hear some frequency shifts. The EQ is gonna be a little different. I tried to make it sound seamless, but alas, I did not. This was also early before we had totally honed in our process of doing the patch challenge, before we implemented the time limit. So Chris was actually working on his patch for longer than we talked, which was really cool. But that would make a 2-hour episode. So I took my favorite, 3.5 minute snippet of what he did and put it at the end. Chris doesn't have a whole lot of recorded, produced material. However, if you look up PLL live at Mobius Sisters on SoundCloud, you can check out one of his live sets. You can also check out Brainfruit if you go to Bandcamp and SoundCloud, and so yeah, you can find his stuff. I highly recommend you do so. Wanted to take a little time before we get into our talk with Chris to thank our Patreon subscribers. We have a couple different tiers for subscribers, and one of those tiers is to get inducted into the Podular Modcast Cool Kid Club. So as of right now, we have to do 2 official inductions. So Josh actually is an upcoming guest. He's one of the 2 founders of the Modular on the Spot here in Seattle. So yeah, you were already a cool kid, but now you are an official Podular Modcast cool kid, Josh. Thanks. Also want to thank Brad Millington, who is the other half of Modular on the Spot Seattle. He helped out, and he's coming up on an episode. However, he didn't pick the cool kid club. Brad, you're cool. I'm not taking that away from you. You're a cool dude, but I can't say you're a Podular Modcast Cool Kid Club member, and it pains me. And then Chris Schmackel, I really hope I got your last name right, man. Chris Schmackel. Thank you very much. I officially dub you, Chris, as a Podular Modcast Cool Kid. Welcome. And just thank you to everybody else who selected a different donor tier, or whatever you call it. You're helping us keep the lights on, as they say. And if you want to become a subscriber and get that sweet induction into the Cool Kid Club, you can go to patreon.com/Podular Modcast. We promise to use any help from Patreon to make this show better for you. So, yeah, let's do this. All right, we're about to get into our episode with Chris, but I want to take a little bit more time here in the beginning to talk about this music that you're hearing in our intro. This is by Annie. It's from an album called Cordillera, and it's absolutely gorgeous. It's a modular music. She's currently my favorite person to follow on Instagram. She does awesome shots of her modular setup with like a beautiful mountain in the background. It's just this really cool, like you wouldn't expect to see a modular setup out in the middle of nowhere. And just her whole aesthetic with album art and the way she shoots her videos and the sound of her music, it all just, it's it seems so intentional, and it all works so well together. So go check out Annie on Bandcamp, and I think she has some albums on Spotify. I like to support through Bandcamp personally. But yeah, if you guys have some cool stuff that you want to recommend, or send in some of your tracks, or recommend somebody to follow, podmodcast@gmail.com for any of your podcast questions or needs. All right, let's talk to Chris Davis.
Chris, so you record as Brainfruit. You do live projects as Brainfruit.
Brainfruit is I'm a member of the band Brainfruit. We're currently on semi-hiatus. John, the other founding member, is living in Oakland right now, so we're not currently active, but we do want to continue to do music like that together. We just are in different places right now.
So walk us through all the projects that you have currently.
Okay.
Any past projects you're proud of?
Sure. So there's Brainfruit, which is more kind of krautrock, IDM, electroacoustic music. There's a drummer in that band as well. It was originally all it went through a lot of stages, but it is currently we do play with a drummer, a live drummer. So there's that one, and then I've played shows under just the name Chris Davis before, and generally I've tried to think of those more as experimental shows that are more drone-based, experimental music-based, and then I play under the name PLL, and that is that's a reference to like some sort of module type thing, but it's that's my more like techno project, just with drum machines and pounding rhythms or whatnot. So that's that one, and that's pretty much it. I don't know. Those are, if you were gonna see me play in a band right now, it would be under one of those three monikers.
I know we played together, I think probably close to 3 years ago now.
Yeah.
Cremwork.
What did I have what was
you
my...
were Chris Davis.
Okay, yeah. So that was before, and then Sam from Motor was just like, you got to think of a name before I bill you again. You can't just go under Chris Davis. And I was like, okay, man. So I was like, I'm gonna call it PLL.
I know. I've been kind of between whether or not I want a moniker. I couldn't, when I first started doing electronic music, I couldn't settle on one, but.
It's hard. It was very hard for me to pick a name. I think it's the hardest to me. Like I have a hard time putting word. I'm an instrumental. I play instrumental music. I have a hard time putting words to sound or whatnot, or thinking. I don't know, kind of envisioning it like that. So that was a hard one.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Everything I thought sounded like pretentious, stupid, or I was probably just being too hard on myself, but. I found one that I think I like. I'll see what you guys think. Omomyid. It's a genus of extinct primate.
Okay.
Or it's a family, excuse me. But, yeah.
How does it look on paper, though?
Omomyid, I think. Omomyid.
Okay.
It's confusing. No one would know how to say it.
Okay. That's good, too, I think. It makes for a good band name.
Yeah. So... I didn't know anything about modular synthesizers when we played together, but I remember being kind of baffled, impressed, and intimidated by the setup that you had when we played. Was it this one, or it seemed like it was a lot bigger? Did you have a lot bigger of a setup then, or
it depends. So I'm not sure what I was playing at that show. So usually each show's different, specific to the show. I don't ever have a set that I do. It's always just an improvised performance.
Okay.
Especially with like a modular synth, it's like you can't really do the same thing twice. So you just kind of have to pick a place to start and then see where it goes and kind of figure it out as you go. Like I always have a place I start in a performance, but I had a different case that was, this is 12U by 104 HP. But I think the case I was using for a long time was a mono rocket case that was 9U by 90 HP. So that was technically smaller, but I may have had like a skiff or something with it at that show.
It probably just looked enormous because I had never really seen one in person before.
I've always like hovered around this sort of size, and like even like right now, I'm just like I don't want to buy anything more. I'm never. Yeah. I've gotten a little bit bigger that I've just I just want everything to be really tight and like and be able to like perform on it, do a bunch of different things, have a lot of different voices, but in a small space.
Okay, I want to go back to what you were saying because this is what I'm finding to be the most interesting thing when I'm talking to everybody about the different ways they use it. So live, you said you have a place that you start from, but then it's like mostly improv from there, or?
Yeah.
So do you kind of build a patch before you show up, or do you kind of do it during sound check?
I don't patch at shows. I usually bring a couple extra cables just in case I do feel like I need to do something, but I'm usually too frantic in the moment that I have a hard time relaxing enough to like just step back and do that.
Right.
Because I'm always doing something, but for the most part what I do is have like maybe 5 different voices set up, 5 or 6 voices, and I can cue off the mixer.
Okay.
So I can listen in headphones, and I can kind of tune something in as other things are playing. And then, with the drum machine, I can save patches on the drum machine, but I'm not really a drum machine virtuoso. I just kind of use it as a backbone to things. Yeah, it took a while to figure out what I needed or what was going on or whatever. It started with, less voices, but I'm just like, the more different options I can have, the better I'm able to improvise, because I can just be like, well, I want something like this right now, or I'm feeling something like this, and I can just like kind of get it figured out really fast. And, I mean, a lot of times I don't take too long. I'll just like take like seconds until it'll be like, that's good enough, and just like bring it in. Sometimes it sucks,
yeah,
and then I have to figure something better out. You know what I mean? But it allows you to like keep rolling with the set at least. So
before pre-modular, were you keyboardist, guitarist, bassist?
Well, originally, I mean, I started out playing guitar like when I was in 7th grade or something like that. I wasn't actually, I was never really good at it. It was more like a punk rock, just rock and roll, just like some bar chords and stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe like a minor pentatonic scale, just ripping a solo.
Describing my set right now.
Yeah, right. And then I played a little bass in a band just because someone needed a bass player. I just like borrowed a bass and played bass a little bit. And I actually really enjoyed jamming on bass. Like if I'm gonna like improvise with a drummer, like I love just like locking into a groove and doing something really simple. More like that krautrock kind of style where you're just grooving. Nothing fancy. And then my guitar playing got way more into the effects pedals and just like all the delays and reverbs and everything, phasers, all that stuff. And then I was just kind of like, well, why am I even playing guitar? All I want to do is play the effects pedals.
Yep.
So then I got more into synthesizers. I had been into synthesizers before, but I realized that was just actually what I wanted to do, is just make sounds. I didn't really care about strumming a guitar.
Right. Right.
So walk us through the gateway of your synth evolution. How did you end up going from modular? I mean, did we start at Casio? Did we start?
Well, the first synth I ever had was a Juno 60 that I got for, like $300, and I'm from Des Moines, Iowa. And, like synths were cheap in like the year 2000 or something like that. It was like 99 or 2000. I had it for like a little bit. I just bought it from a friend and then like sold it for maybe $100 more than I bought it for when I moved out here to go to college. And then in college, the first thing that really got me was I went to the Evergreen State College in Olympia, and they have some music tech labs there. And the first assignment we did was like playing with like tape loops and cutting up tape and stuff like that. And then it was I think it was we had to wait until the second year. Maybe it was the first year too. But they have 3 ARP 2600s there in the 3 different labs they have. So like what really got me, I was more into like drone music back then. Just like, textural stuff. So just like having 2 oscillators that I could just detune against one another. I was like, wow, this is amazing. I can just like listen to them like, so that, the ARP 2600s are semi-modular, and it just got me into like that. They also had a Buchla system from the 70s that I got to play with a lot. And then I was just kind of like, I'm never going to be able to afford this stuff, So, years later, I got like a mono machine, saved up my money and bought a mono machine for like $700 or something like that, like used. And I still have it. We were just talking about it a second ago. And that's what kind of kickstart like Brainfruit, which is doing those like sequenced synthesizer things, like, and the cool thing about that is that it's 6 different voices, so you can basically make like whole jams on it, and just kind of like it's not a sampler, and it's a sequence synthesizer, so you can just like start in one place and just like totally like take it somewhere else with like as my friend called it a long time ago, he's like, oh yeah, I get it. It's like a journey through the knobs. It's like yeah, it is. It kind of is,
Yeah.
So it's fun because we play a show and you just open the patch up over again, and then you just like go crazy and get somewhere else, and then you go to the next patch and do the same thing, and then you play another show and they're right back where they started. So it's kind of fun.
That's pretty rad.
Yeah, and then Eurorack kind of became more popular, and I just started buying that stuff. I got somewhere in between, I got like a Nord modular, and I liked it. I played with it in college before too, but it just didn't really sound very good.
Mm-hmm.
It really like plasticky and just very like surface level. It didn't have any like depth to it.
And this is with the old computer patching.
Yeah,
interface.
you would patch on a computer.
Like
I literally
3 knobs total.
I bought a computer off of Craigslist for like $50, like an old computer, so I could run the patch editor for it. I was like, this kind of sucks. I'd be playing it with like my band member and Brainfruit was John, and he had like a Moog Prodigy that I played most of the times when we did like a live show. He played like a monopoly, and I played a Prodigy just to play some little like simple lead lines, and just listening to like the Nord modular compared to the Prodigy, it was like nothing. It was like if you just like hit a note on the Prodigy and it just swallows the whole like Nord modular alive. It just like disappears. So
did you do much? Well, I guess do you do your own like production when you record, or do you do much production stuff?
I'm trying to get more into it. I've been really anti-computer for a long time, but honestly, like about a week and a half ago, I got an Ableton Push.
Oh yeah. Which
is it? Always, I was like, I don't. This seems silly, but I'm just like, wow, this could like be really, really powerful. I'm not trying to do like sampling and stuff, but just as far as like sequencing goes, and just kind of like putting it all together, I think it'll really help me in a lot of ways. So we'll see how it goes.
My buddy Chris Haynes, do you know Leaf Trace?
I don't think so.
He hangs with like Andy and those guys. He's part of like the original Monster Crew, Monster Planet guys.
Probably may have met him before. Yeah.
He plays primarily with a push, and he like plays it like an instrument.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting.
It's a super powerful tool, and I don't know.
I'm with you though. That's part of the push of me getting into modular is I've never been into soft synths. I've always been I've always had some sort of external gear, but modular synthesis is like really blowing up right now.
It's huge. I have all these friends who keep being like, "Hey, I'm getting into this," and like friends that I used to play guitar in guitar bands with in Iowa and like in like the year 2000, and they're just like, "Yeah, I'm getting into this stuff," and I was like, "Wow, that's that blows my mind."
Yeah.
And this guy, he was just like, "What kind of case should I get?" And he's probably I'm 36 and he's probably 38. He made a good point. I was like, I can't believe you're getting into that. And he was just like, it just makes a lot of sense to get into synthesizers once you're like an aging musician. It's like you can't play guitar, like you can't play in like unless you like playing like a blues band or something. Right. It's like you're not going to be playing guitar. It's just not interesting anymore. You want like something else to explore. So,
how much did getting into modular change just the way you thought about writing, playing, producing music, just the whole thing? Because for me, it shook the foundations and it's totally...
Yeah, so for me, I haven't been doing a lot of recorded music since I've gotten into this thing. I do mostly improvised shows. And I have some improvised work that has been put out and stuff like that. But it's just like, for the most part, it's just like when you're playing something like this in an environment, it's just like, it's never done. It's never like... It's never finalized. You're just holding it in time. You're just kind of like making something for that moment or whatever. And I don't know. I mean, I think I need to change my view of that if I want to make recordings that I really like, because it's like I'll do something and I'll be like, that sounded great at the time, but then it's just like, but it's just for that moment. And
I'm right there with you, man.
Yeah, it's just it's to me it's about tuning. You're just basically like tuning in the situation, the environment, and making something that sounds good to you at the time. And that might not sound good the next day. It might sound great like a week and a half later, but it's just one of those things that it's just like, it's very specific to the time and the place and the vibe and how you're feeling, and you're just like, because everything's like malleable. It's just like very it's just very like pure frequencies, and just like it's about how it feels in the room and stuff like that. And like, I don't know, when you're playing in front of people, it's like they're kind of like, you're kind of like vibing with them too, and it's just I don't know, it's like there's something like really weird on, you know, something really weird about it that's like undescribable, that's like hard for someone who doesn't have tools like this, or hasn't tried to do, you know, performances with these sorts of things, to describe how kind of like powerful and in the moment it can be, or whatever.
I can't help but think of it as kind of like an exercise in impermanence.
Yeah.
I that's what I like about it. Before getting into Modular, I recorded everything.
Yeah.
And I would chop everything up.
That was the point, right?
Yeah,
You're
the
just
whole
like, that's
point
what I'm
was
doing,
I
is
was
I'm making a recording.
Yeah, I was after whatever the next album was going to be or whatever. And since I've started doing this, I don't really record anything. And if I do, it's more just to be like, well, this is going to disappear.
Yeah, just to capture it. It's like you play for like an hour and then you just record the last like 3 minutes.
Exactly.
That's what I do. But it just doesn't really capture the. I mean, I should probably always hit record, but I don't want to sift through a million files. It's just like for me, or if I play out, it's for the people that are there, and that's fine, you know. So
I just find it very rewarding.
Yeah.
Just it's rewarding in the practice of doing it, but I'm also finding like this, again, not to sound too cheesy, but like almost like personal growth through the fact that I'm okay with letting that thing disappear, having been the only person that ever heard it.
I think there's a lot of really interesting, like, deeper things with modular synthesizers. Like, if you think about the way the world works, it's all just like, you know, frequencies and cycles and all of these things or whatever, and you're just like, you have this like system to control, like, you know, it's a small bandwidth or whatever, it's a small range of, you know, sensory whatever, but it's like you're controlling like a certain thing in space. You're building something that happens like right there, and it's like you're making, it's like I don't know, I was like on the beach one time just watching the waves like form the sand or whatever, and I was just like, it's kind of like, you know, like being like a synthesist, you're kind of like, it's not that strong of like a physical thing or whatever, but it's really, really similar to that. You're just like shaping things with sound, but sound is only a small, you know, what you can hear with your ears is only a small spectrum in the universe of frequencies or whatnot.
Yeah, and,
so it's
and
like,
what is going on to make that sound? The sound is such a small fraction of it.
Yeah, right. But I mean, but you're controlling that range, you know, with all of these things. But then you get into like LFOs and the period of all these different things that are like longer or whatever. You don't hear them, but they're controlling all these other parameters and stuff. But I don't know. It's just so you can get pretty deep into that stuff. It's just like a powerful tool set that you can create with. You can do whatever you want with it. It's just, they're like simple things that you can use to make other things. I don't know.
Like you are creating, like you said, like you are doing that thing, you are controlling, you're kind of like the god of the little world.
Yeah.
But you paint in broad strokes with a big brush.
Yeah.
You know, like there's maybe an idea you're after, but you got to chisel that idea out of a lot of marble, and it might not look exactly like you thought about it.
It kind of like leads you a little bit too, you know, depending on whatever. But I mean, you can like try to have it do exactly what you want. You can kind of get close. There's ways. I like the puzzle of thinking about it, like being like, how could I do that? And it's like, I know I can do that.
Yeah.
I just have to figure out how to do that or whatever. Those puzzles are fun. You know, like just being like, well, how would you do that with like, you know, how can I add like these frequencies? You know, because it's all frequencies, so it's like you can, it's all voltage, so you can like add and subtract, and you can like arrange things in certain ways to do a lot of different things in ways that you wouldn't necessarily expect. You know, like so you can like use these things in really weird ways. You know, like you can sequence with like anything. You know what I mean? Like you can just have to figure out how to like break up different things or whatever. So
yeah, I love those aha moments where where you're going through and you're like, oh my god, I could use my VCA for that.
Yeah.
Or just watching somebody else patch on a similar system. You can really see.
Have you ever tried patching like Serge?
Uh-uh.
Like it takes banana plugs or whatever. It's expensive. It's like a 4U system. But the way Serges are patched is really interesting. Like all the modules, like Eurorack's gotten very specific, so it's like one thing does one thing, and it's kind of boring in that sense. So Serge is like the opposite of that, where everything is just like a basic building block, but it does a lot of different things. It's like really well thought out. So I don't know, like the basis of like Serge stuff is just like, I don't know, I feel like the most powerful thing is like slope generators. So I mean, everyone knows what like a maths is or whatever. That's just like Buchla and Serge had those same things or whatever, and it's just like you can do so much with like slopes. It's just like a function generator. It just does all these different things, and you can use it however you want. So it's like the thing you can never have enough of.
Right.
But yeah, Serges are weird because it's just like it's banana plugs, so you're stacking a lot of cables and you're doing a lot of like, utility things to get it to do whatever. But yeah, I mean, look into those sometime. It's really, it's interesting. Really, it's like Eurorack's gotten all the popular stuff has gotten really kind of like, it's gone down one path or whatever, whereas like, I love like Dopefer systems because it's just like, it's all just like building blocks.
Yeah.
I wish I had more, I wish I had a huge system of Dopefer, but instead I just want to have like a compact thing with lots of voices. So I have to, like sacrifice the experimentation of having like all these little like voltage modules and stuff. So
I've found this good.
Well, and I find it interesting to bring up Serge because if you look at the DIY community, if you look at electro music, Muff Wiggler, everyone that's making their own boards, there is such a lean towards reissuing Serge boards.
Yeah.
Buchla creating pure function generators.
Yeah.
Whereas the people that are tied in directly to Eurorack and doing DIY stuff are people I think like Hex Inverter that are building a very specific thing, a specific percussion module, a specific wild oscillator.
Right.
But it is always put much less in mathematical terms.
Well, because those designs are like classics for a reason. You know what I mean? Like, and for all these people, not everyone can have like this like epiphany of like some classic module. It's, you know what I mean? It's like, it's hard to make a classic, and those have just like stood the test of time.
Most people are trying to figure out how to make a basic circuit.
Yeah,
And I think it's really intriguing in that way. But I want to ask, looking at your setup, it's compact, it's perfectly spaced. You've filled up your rack fully.
Yeah.
Is this all of the modules that you have?
I have 3 more that are for sale right now.
What do you got?
I have a Trigger Riot. I have a Z8000, both by Tip Top, and then I have a Topo Brio like triple wave folder, which were really useful. I love all of those things, but I have other ways to get those functions in this system, so it's like it's not the most, and they take up a lot of space too. So I really enjoyed having them. It's like those are modules that I've like bought and sold a couple times. That happens.
Yeah.
Because it's like you let something go and you're like, whatever, I'll just get something else. And then you're like, well, I missed having that one, so you buy it again.
I'm curious what the evolution of your setup was. What it was that you found yourself leaning on again and again, you wanted to double up on. What it is you found missing and how you filled that, and why this is the state of your setup after years of honing it.
Okay, so the first system I bought off Muff Wiggler, like buy sell trade, and it was a full system. It was like some dude's garbage, basically. I mean, it wasn't super expensive, but it was a lot of just random crap. Mm-hmm. But there was interesting modules that I wanted to try, so I bought it. So it was like a bunch of like wired stuff, like Moleco wired stuff. So all the whatever Gargoyle Griffin ones, So it was like an anti-oscillator, which I thought was really cool. I still really like that. It's just like too big for what it does right now.
Yeah, my friend.
But it sounds really musical. It's the way that it FMs is really musical on it. I really like that. Another thing was like a noise ring that was part of that system. I really like the noise ring. Just sold it to my friend Garrett, who's the drummer for Brainfruit. He just got a modular system too. Speaking of everyone getting a modular system.
Way to go, Garrett.
I know, right? So he's got the noise ring and he's got the Moleco oscillator. And then other parts of that system were oscillators, but they were the older versions that had some circuit issues, so I replaced them with the newer ones. But these were like my first love, were like these like oscillator things. I mean, they're just slope generators, but they're really well done. They're really well thought out. You can modulate the, attack and decay times. It's just really, they're just perfect utility modules. Most people like buy a Maths or something instead. I've had a Maths before. It's basically the same thing, but with attenuverters and mixers, functions and stuff like that too. And then I tried to get more, musical stuff to make like more. I got really into modular sequencing for a little while. So, with like the Z8000 and then like all these different like logic modules and like switches, get into like that, like Tangerine Dream, like ratcheting sequences and all that sort of stuff. Modular sequencing is really fun, but I went with this case. I have the ModCan touch sequencer and the IntelliGel Metropolis. So they're both. This is like they're like kind of hands-on or whatever, and I like the touch sequencer because you can just like save stuff. And you have like performance modes where you can just like hit a thing and all your sequencers are saved. So most of this case is focused on more of like a performance case. So a lot of complex oscillators, filters, envelopes, LFOs, sequencing, a delay and a reverb, a phaser, and a frequency shifter. I like slow modulations, so stuff gets like, you can listen to it over and over and over again, and it's like kind of moving a little bit, but like I don't want I'm not trying to do like that, like, what is it, like Richard Devine, just like those, it's like, what can I do with this thing? And it's just like,
yeah, I'm like definitely trying to find my more like just kind of cloudy type sounding stuff.
Yeah, I mean, everyone has the sound they're kind of going for or whatever, and like I just like to have more. I also like to have really good sounds, like really pure sounds. Like the oscillators are really important to me, to have like a really nice sounding oscillator. I don't know if it's my favorite, but this like Schweiman VCO2RM, which is super old. I mean, they've been making this since Eurorack for a long time. But it's my only analog oscillator.
Oh, really? Okay.
Everything else is digital.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if you had a preference.
I don't know. I mean, they're both fine for what they are. I've gotten really more recently into, not recently, but for the last several years, more into like FM sounds, more like complex tone generators. So like all those just like basic square wave, it's just like really boring to me.
Yeah.
So like more, so all of these voices, the oscillators have like this Laquella Guitarist, Shapeshifter, FM VDO. They're all dual oscillators, so it's like I'm using them all for FM, so more like clangy, metallic type tones or whatnot. And then the VCO2RM is really precise as an analog oscillator, but it's analog and it has all these like different weird shapes that are like, weird sawtoothy type complex waves or whatever, but it also modulates really well, and it cross modulates really well together. Like that's what I was just playing with, because I haven't played with it as much as some of these other ones or whatever, and it has a really just like pleasing tonality to it. Like it just sounds really electric, whereas the digital ones are like, kind of harsher sounding or whatever, and it's nice in their own way too. So
what's your scenario?
An unknown Norwegian great-grandfather passed away. He lived in the North Fjords, up by Finnmark, and only had a simple electricity generation system. Due to the constraints, there is a very low amperage available, and in order to power anything other than headphones, there's only 5 modules that you could power. You are given a plane tomorrow. What do you bring?
Okay, so I think first, like one of my favorite modules, and like I again don't use it to its fullest extent all the time, but it's like super deep, is the ModCan Quad LFO. I really love ModCan, like Bruce Duncan, his designs. It's 4 LFOs, but it's not. I mean, you have all these different wave shapes, even like patterns, like tablatures, and then they have transforms for every single one of them, random, noise, and they go into audio rate too.
Oh, man.
So it's insane, and you can cross modulate everything. And then To top it all off, you can just hold a button and it'll save everything that you've just programmed.
Oh,
so when you
nice.
power it off and power back on, it's exactly where you left it.
Nice.
If I was going to have one oscillator, I'd have to probably be the shapeshifter, just because it's the deepest. I could probably just have that oscillator for like 5 years and never get to the end of the possibilities.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you can do chords. You can do, you can have like just like 2 LFOs with like logic between them. You could probably sequence with it.
Jeez.
You know what I mean? You could
Uh-huh.
just like use it as like LFOs and like voltages to kind of like cross modulate each other. It has a percussion mode, which means it basically has a built-in VCA. So you can just send it a trigger and you can set the length of the decay. It has a wave folder built in.
I think you're selling me right now.
I know.
I'm
If I was gonna have one filter, it would be this Schweiman multi-mode filter 1, so the MMF1. It's like not the most like dirty, it's like it definitely has like a very like hi-fi, like clean, snappy, modern sound to it, but I love it for that. And then the filter shapes are really cool. So it has dual resonance peaks with a spacing knob, so you can do like bandpass with 2 peaks and then move the peaks around.
Oh, nice.
So you can get like these formant sounds. You can switch it between 12 dB and 24 dB for the slope.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't Schweiman, or at least didn't he focus on making full systems, and the modules came out of the Schweiman systems?
I think so. So there's an S1. S1 Mark II was this thing they were selling it when I was into this stuff, and I was like, oh, it's one of those things that's like $4,000, but I used to see them going used for like $2,600, and I was like, I could probably get one of those someday, and then they stopped manufacturing them right after that. So I had like bought in this like Schweiman voice module, like a VM1, and I sold it, being like, okay, I'm just gonna wait for an S1 to pop up. Discontinued. I never saw a VM1 or an S1 ever again. So I just like, so now whenever I can like buy the Schweiman stuff, like that I have 3 modules of theirs right now. Whenever I can like buy it, I just kind of do it, because if I don't want it anymore, I can sell it for probably more than I bought it
I was
for.
just gonna ask if
And
if
they're
that
just
was
like
the case.
lovely to have. So I mean, I would love to have a system of all that stuff. I think it would be great, but it's just not really practical.
Yeah.
Okay, that's 3, right?
3.
Okay. I guess, I mean, I don't have a maths, but I'm gonna say maths, and here's why. Because of slopes, but maths has the it has like the mixer with the attenuverters too. Mm-hmm. So attenuverters are so important for everything. I use this like 4MS, like SISM. What it's called, like shuffling, I don't know, a signal multiplier, something like that. But anyway, it's basically just like 4 channels of attenuverters with offset that also mix together. So maths is kind of like 2 of those channels in the middle of the 2 slope generators, and those are just like, I guess, like the most important. It's LFOs are great modulators. The slope generators are good modulators, but also if you want to use them to like open and close a VCA or something like that, triggered or whatever. Okay, and then I have to think of, I need one more module. I know I need a VCA, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just making drone music up in Scandinavia. Is that where I'm at?
Yeah.
Years of isolation.
Years of
Music is
isolation.
your only thing that will keep you company.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. All right. I have an oscillator, slopes, attenuverters, quad LFO, filter. You know what? I'm gonna say no VCA, and here's why. Because the MMF1 will close all the way. So if you can almost use it like a low pass gate, it'll just shut off all the way. Like, so my first system didn't have a VCA, but it had a Borg filter, and the Borg filter is a low pass gate, so it'll shut off all the way. So you can basically just use it as like a filtered VCA. So some sort of sequencer, I'd probably get. I don't know. I'd want something a little more powerful than like a Metropolis. Like the ModCan Touch is like crazy new stuff out that I don't even know about. I don't even try to look at this stuff anymore because I'm just like, I am so done.
Yeah.
I can't. I don't want to like just lust after something and be like, I have to have it.
That's where I'm at right now. It's hard. I'm also trying to save up for a wedding, so oh god.
Oh jeez. Yeah, I don't know. I'll just say a sequencer of some sort. Maybe I said I don't look at stuff anymore, but there's that new like Scarp sequencer or whatnot. They made that thing called the Pyramid, but it's basically like a pyramid for Eurorack.
Okay.
Which is a super powerful, like compact CPU based sequencer. I'll take that.
Okay. Cool. We're at that time. Let's draw some adjectives and nouns.
All right. I'm terrified. What do we got here?
So here's your adjective.
I don't even know what this means.
What is it?
It's a corpuscular.
Corpuscular. Ooh. I want to say it's almost kind of like gnarly, like almost like a lot of burls.
Gnarly, like the carpet in a boat.
Like burly.
Gnarly, like burls. I like that.
But I could be wrong. Let me look it up. So globular.
Globular?
Yeah, basically globular, like a mass of cells.
Okay.
And then here's a noun for you.
Harbor.
Globular harbor.
Corpuscular.
Or corpuscular harbor.
Corpuscular harbor.
It sounds cool. All right. Well, we're gonna pause. I'm gonna save, and then we'll get set up.
Okay.